So, angle of elevation, angle depression. If we look, we have a horizontal line. We're always starting with the horizontal line. If we're looking for an angle of elevation, if you're elevating, you're going which way? Up, right? So an angle of elevation is going to be from a horizontal line upwards. So this right here is my angle of elevation. Right? So up from a horizontal line is my angle of elevation. Angle of depression. If you're depressed or you're decreasing, you're going down, right? So from my horizontal line, my angle of depression would be going down. So this right here would be an angle of depression. It's looking down on things. Okay, so elevation is up, depression is down from a horizontal line. So we're going to do different types of problems with angle of elevation, angle of depression. Right? Just remember, elevation up, depression down. Okay? So like at the first one, Rachel spotted her car from a weather balloon. She knows her altitude is 82 meters, right? Altitude means from the ground up to where she is. Her angle of depression is 32 degrees. So we know an altitude of 82, angle of depression of 32. She wants to know how far she is from her car. Draw a triangle and use trig to solve. Well, first of all, I'm using angle of depression, right? Which means I know I'm going to have a line here. And let's draw her. She is in a weather balloon. I'm a great artist, I know.
Well done, mister.
Thank you. So that's her in a weather balloon, right? She sees her car down here. She sees her car, right? She is 82 feet, or 82 meters, excuse me. 82 meters above the ground. She wants to know how far she is from her car. So which other leg of this triangle that we just drew is she looking for? The hypotenuse over here, right? She wants to know how far she is from her car. Okay, so I have that she's 82 meters. The angle of depression, right? We need to figure out which one of these angles is our angle of depression. Well, we said angle of depression was what? Down from the horizontal line. So from my horizontal line here, looking down is 32 degrees. Does that angle actually help me at all? It helps me find this angle, but it doesn't help me solve the problem, really, does it? What is this angle right here going to be? 90 minus 32, right? This is making a vertical line and a horizontal line, which means 90 minus 32, which is 58 degrees, what that angle is going to be. Does that make sense? There's kind of a lot of jumping around there. So we're just, the biggest thing, guys, is getting your picture drawn correctly. 82 meters. She wants to know the distance. Because my angle of depression is 32 degrees, this whole thing is 90, so this becomes 58. Okay? We all understand where those come from. Okay, so now we need to use trig to try and solve to see how far is she from her car. Well, if this is my angle, right, that's the angle I'm using. This is the opposite side, the adjacent side, and the hypotenuse. Which are the two sides that I'm going to use? Adjacent and hypotenuse. Which out of SOHCAHTOA, that means I'm using the cosine. So the cosine of my angle, cosine of 58 degrees, equals the adjacent 82 over the hypotenuse x. Okay? So now all we need to do is solve for x. The easiest way to think about it from here is to put cosine of 58 over 1 and then cross multiply. Okay? When I cross multiply, I get cosine of 58 times x equals 82. Right? Cross multiply. So how do I solve for x? Divide by the cosine of 58. Alright, so in my calculator then, x is approximately, remember we're going to the nearest meter. So 82 divided by the cosine of 58. What do we get when we put that in our calculator? So to the nearest meter, 155 meters. Okay, so the biggest thing, honestly, and problem with this is make sure your picture's set up correct. Right? Make sure your altitude, that's vertically from the ground. Angle depression is from that horizontal line she's at looking down. So use that to figure out the rest of that 90 degrees. Question, Q?
No.
You good?
I'm pretty sure I'll because I was gonna ask, do we actually have to draw a picture?
You do not have to draw a picture. You should still draw a triangle to figure that out.
So we have to draw a triangle?
It will not get marked wrong if you don't draw a triangle. I'm telling you that it is in your best interest to do so.
I'm just clarifying.
To be crystal clear, you do not need to draw a picture to get it correct on an assessment.
Alright.
I would highly suggest it though.
Okay.
Okay? Alright, any questions on that problem? Okay, let's try another one. Dylan spotted his model rocket from a launch stuck in a tree. He knows the base of the tree is 19 feet from the launch site. Rocket is 23 feet up from the ground. He wants to calculate the angle of elevation so you can make an adjustment. So we know we're using angle of elevation. Round to the nearest degree, draw a picture using trig to find the angle. Well, I'm going to draw my rocket stuck in a tree. There's my tree. My rocket's up there. It probably doesn't have a fuse on it anymore. We shot it off, right? That's right. So, my rocket's in the tree. He said the base of the tree is 19 feet from the launch site. So if I launch from over here, it is 19 feet, the base of that tree. Then he said the rocket is 23 feet up from the ground. 23 feet. That is a vertical line, by the way. Not everything's drawn to scale. So, 19 feet, 23 feet. I want to make my triangle. I want to know the angle of elevation. So that's from a horizontal line going up. So it's going to be this angle right here. So I'm going to use theta. I don't know it. I want to know the angle of elevation so we can make adjustments for future launches. Okay, does that picture make sense? Do we all understand why this is our angle of elevation? Okay? Alright, so if I'm using this angle, that means this side is the opposite side. This is the adjacent side. This is the hypotenuse. The two sides I'm using are my opposite, my adjacent. Which means I'm using which trig function? The tangent. Right? So tangent of theta equals the opposite 25. Excuse me, 23. Over the adjacent 19. So I set up my trig function. How do we solve for that angle? Kenzie?
You have to do like the inverse, the -1.
The inverse tangent of both sides, right? I need to undo this tangent so I can solve for that variable. So what I do is I take the inverse tangent of both sides. What happens is these cancel each other out. I get theta equals the inverse tangent of 23 over 19. Now if you don't remember how to put that in, you hit second tangent on your calculator. Then you just do 23 divided by 19. We want the nearest degree. The nearest whole degree. So theta is approximately 50, 50. Is that everybody else got? 50 degrees. Any questions?
It's actually better to draw a picture.
Way easier when you draw a picture, man. It's crazy.
You can see it.
All right. Any questions?
Oh.
All right. We're good? I do believe there are some.
You try.
You try. Oh, no, we have an example here.
Make sure you try.
Does it say you try on there?
Yeah, how about we try?
No. We'll do one more together. One more together. Hey, guys, relax for a second. You lean a 20-foot ladder against the wall. Base of the ladder is 4 feet from the wall. What angle theta does the ladder make with the ground? So this one they gave us a picture already. It's really nice. So using my angle theta, this is the opposite adjacent hypotenuse. So Anna, I have the adjacent and the hypotenuse. So which trig function should I use?
Cosine.
Cosine, right? SOHCAHTOA. So adjacent hypotenuse means cosine. Cosine of theta equals the adjacent over the hypotenuse, 4 over 20. And I need to take the inverse cosine of both sides so I can solve for theta. So theta equals inverse cosine of 4 over 20. Remember, we're doing degrees. We want the nearest whole degree. Unless it says differently. So the nearest whole degree.
79.
What?
79 degrees.
Is that what everybody else got?
78.46, you round 6 to...
Do you look too past that? No, the 4 is what determines it. So, should just be approximately 78 degrees. Alright, any questions on that? Alright, you guys try the next one quick. Try the next one. If you have a question, raise your hand.
Did it my way.
I went to Marinette, so I went up north. My mom, before I went to Florida, my mom broke her ankle actually. So they're trying to get their house ready to sell. So I went up there and did a bunch of work for them so she could leave. So I played a lot of hockey. You can play hockey. Nothing once every day. It's awesome. Yeah, unbelievable.
I remember I got to go
You're right.
to this high school twice every day because I didn't
My bad.
Yeah, well, I got to baby.
Good.
I love child.
Actually, don't have to use that.
It's baby. You should just keep going and bring it to mine.
Tom, how's it going? Get his calculator out, I like it.
First time I've seen the live day. It's actually dead.
Good, Patrick? Careful, rubber team. Tangent, right? And careful which sides you put first. Alright, let's take a look at the answer. Guys, hey, check your answer, please. We should have got 65 degrees, right? We're taking the tangent of x. So tangent of x equals the opposite. Guys, stop talking. Opposite over the adjacent. 750 over 350. So, inverse tangent of both sides to get that x by itself. We get 65 degrees. Any questions? Any questions? Alright, then let's talk about solving right triangles. Does anyone remember how you solve a right triangle? What do you have to do?
Find all missing angles and sides.
Find all missing angles and sides. That's where it says it right on your paper. So, what you need to do, if we ask you to solve a right triangle for any sort of reason, I don't know, something important, I don't know. If we ask you to solve a right triangle, you need to find every single angle and every single side. Now, normally we'll give you at least 3 things. Whether it's 2 sides and an angle, whether it's all 3 sides, whether it's all 3 angles. All sorts of things, you need to get at least 3 things. We'll give you 3 things. So, first things first, I need to solve for angle U. I need to solve for side UT. I need to solve for side TS. Now, what should I probably do first? What's the easiest one to do? The angle, right? Because I have 2 angles already. And what do all the angles of a triangle add to? 180. So to find that third angle, to find angle U, I'm going to take 180 minus those other 2 angles. So minus 90, minus 70. So angle U is going to equal 20 degrees. Do not forget that. If you forget the degree mark, it's going to get marked wrong on the test. Yes. I'm a stickler about it. You need to have that degree. Alright, so we already found one thing. Now we define side UT, which I'm going to call X, and side TS, which I'm going to call Y. You could do it however you want, right? I'm just giving it 2 random variables. Okay? Alright. Levi, which one do you solve for first? X. Alright. So if I'm solving for X, I can go in a bunch of different ways using trig here. But I need to pick an angle first, right? I'm going to pick either 20 or 70. Q, which one do you want to use?
70.
70. So if I'm using angle 70, this is the opposite side. This is the hypotenuse. Right? I'm looking for the opposite. I know the hypotenuse, which means I should do what? Trig function. The sine, right? So the sine of 70. Sine of 70 degrees equals the opposite, which is x, over the hypotenuse, which is 15. Well, to solve for x, you can think of it like you're cross multiplying, or just think, I need to multiply by 15 on both sides. So 15 times sine of 70 degrees will give us our x value. Remember, with side blanks, unless it tells it differently, we want to go to the hundredths place, or 2 decimals. So x is approximately 2 decimal places.
14.20.
14.10. Did we all get that? Right? 15 times the sine of 70 should give us 14.10. Okay. So, guys, hey, relax. So, that's my first side I need to find. I need to find the second side. There's a bunch of different ways you can do it. Right? You can use trig. Right? You can use whichever angle you want for trig. Or you can do what now that you know 2 sides? Pythagorean theorem. Paige, which way do you want to do? Pythagorean theorem? Alright, so if I know that this side is now 14.10, I can do Pythagorean theorem to find my third side. Right? So a squared plus b squared, which I'm going to let be 14.10, equals the hypotenuse squared, 15 squared. A squared plus, what's 14.1 squared? 198.81. Equals 15 squared, which is
225.
225. And just solve it, right? Solve for A. Subtract 198.81.
26.19.
A squared equals what? 26 point.
19.
And then how do you solve for A?
Square.
Square root it. Approximately 5 point what?
1.
Remember, 2 decimal spots. Now, guys, listen. If you do trig, you might get a little different answer, right? That's fine. Just make sure you show your work. Right? Because I think I did trig and I got 5.13. That's perfectly fine. Right? You might get different answers. Why would we get different answers? Because we rounded, right? We rounded here for 14.10. And then we plugged it in to an exact equation. So sometimes you will get a little different because of rounding. That's fine. Just make sure you show your work. Alright? Any questions on that? Grace?
So when we're plugging in numbers for the Pythagorean theorem, is there anything that has to go in a specific spot?
The hypotenuse always has to be C. That's the only one that matters. Okay? Yep. Alright, there are 2 you try problems with this. There's one on that page, and there's one on the next page. Let's start with just the one on that first page. Go ahead and try it. If you have questions, ask. Raise your hand. Right? If you're stuck on something, raise your hand. Is Aldrich? She is, yeah. Yep. Bye. Do you have the numbers look good? No, just move it around a good spot. The angles are C squared always has to be hypotenuse. Yep, it doesn't. Almost one. How much more time do we need? Oh, good talk. Almost done. Alright.
You can have one, dude.
Can you what?
I have one today.
Can you vlog it? Maybe. We'll see. Have we earned our vlogging rights back?
Yes, we have.
For sure.
Should I put it up on my channel?
What?
Should I put it up on my channel?
You don't have a channel. Alright.
I don't, yeah.
I'll put the answer up for that first one.
That's good.
check your answer, right? Depending on which way you did it, if you did trig or you did Pythagorean theorem, you got different answers. Like I said, it happens, right? So go ahead and check your answers. 55 and 35 should always be like that, using trig. But then, like I said, if you use trig for your third side, you got 20.92. If you use Pythagorean theorem, 20.81. On an assessment, like I said, just make sure you show your work. I'll have both ways answered on my test, and I want to make sure that I can follow your work to see how you got yours. That way if I forgot a way or something, alright? So just make sure you show your work. Any questions on that? Okay, try the last one. I'll put it up in about a minute or two, that way you get some time for homework.
Your shirt. Right, you get your shirt. I'm black one from the white one from there's one, it's in like Texas. There's one like, where's our one? Blue flag?
I'm not recording.
What?
It's done.
No, it's not. I got you the answer yet, man.
We're all done with the chat.
I told you I'll put it up in about a minute. Relax. Hey, deep breaths.
5 minutes.
Deep breaths, man. Breaths. I want to make sure we get the chance to do it.
Take a bit.
I'm gonna drive out to California just to go.
Is that where you went, Liam?
We're gonna drive to Arizona.
Oh, you went to Arizona. You go to Arizona for?
Vacation.
You getting fun or just?
Yeah.
Yeah, what you
Dude, we hiked up 3,000 foot mountains.
Oh yeah, I did that too.
Really?
Yeah.
I went there last year.
Yeah, what mountain like?
Oh yes. Started with a P. It was something P. P. It was like the second tallest mountain.
I hiked somewhere. I didn't hike that.
Weak camelback.
You went to
I thought I was
the.
gonna die.
Is it easy?